is a show Bible? So in the last video, I sat down with Caitlin Corkery, who's created numerous brilliant television programming, and she told me I should really move on to creating a show Bible. So I went online and looked for some templates to kind of fit all of the stuff that I've been doing into what would work for the show Bible for what the show would be. I will say I have started putting in the work on the first episode, almost going past the pilot of doing this, just because for what I'm trying to do for the first episode, I can't really wait around until winter. So I'm kind of having to do both in tandem. But what I did figure out while I was doing that research is essentially like a basic structure of what I need to do moving forward from this point. With that said, there are still a handful of important interviews that I need to have, one of which a videographer or a cinematographer, because I just don't want to start filming the first episode or refilming things to create a proper pilot episode, and I'm shooting shots that look like butt, I'm shooting things in like poor lighting. And also, I want to talk to an audio engineer or an audio person because I don't want to film something and the audio's trash, and then now I've just wasted a bunch of time creating something just for it to have unusable audio or unusable video. I still want to have those interviews and those conversations. And then from that point, I can kind of start either redoing or reusing some of these kind of vlog videos and actually shoot or reshoot, I guess, everything into what a episode of this would look like as an actual series. I'm going to teleport to a new location so that way we can kind of get into creating this show Bible outline before we get into any of that. Last episode, I talked to Caitlin Corkery, who's created a ton of brilliant television programs. And at the end of that conversation, she said I should look into creating a show Bible. Now, I'm not a religious guy at all, so I had to look into it a little bit further just to figure out what it is. Was pretty surprised to find out it had nothing to do with Jesus. So, awesome. What I did find out, and I didn't write a script for this, so I'm going to just kind of go as much off the top of the dome as I can, and the rest I have written down in this handy-dandy notebook. But essentially, what a show Bible is, it is a document that outlines the characters, plot, settings, and themes of a TV series. Now, writers will typically use that to pitch to networks and network execs. However, just like people don't like getting unsolicited dick pics, networks and network executives don't like receiving those or unsolicited messages and ideas for TV shows. So try not to do either of those things. The move is you want to make a show Bible to pitch to production companies. Hopefully the production company falls in love with your little idea and they decide to enter into a co-production agreement. That agreement will allow you to tap into their resources such as their legal team, their production team, their facilities, all of that good stuff. Aim for that, and then that production company will reach out to their network of networks and network executives to help you pitch your show to them in hopes that it gets picked up. Now, once it's picked up, it's turned into a living document. That document will be modified with any additional characters that are added, anything that the show has grown into, any new information, so that way everybody on the team is on the same page of what needs to happen in this show to maintain continuity, to maintain general theme, general look, yada, yada, yada. So the thing I think we're going to work on next is a show Bible. But I'm actually pretty excited because in this weird, twisty, all over the place Roomba in a dirty house for the first time kind of way, have actually solved a good chunk of the things that go into a show Bible. I think that we should make a draft. Not we, me. I don't really know how to still go about if I should be talking to everybody who's watching this or like you personally watching this. I haven't figured that out yet. It's still pretty weird. Yeah, I think we should get into creating a draft at least and have somebody maybe look at it. I'm also excited because in my time researching this, have actually found a nice step-by-step structure that I should follow in order to get it from the whole idea phase of, episode 0 or 1 or whatever, into getting it into something that can become a pilot that can then be pitched. I'll get into that a little later, but I am pretty excited because it does feel like there's a little more forward momentum going on here. Let's figure out how to make a show Bible, and let's figure out what the show Bible for this show will look like. All right? Cool. Okay, let's figure this out. So, show Bible, and I printed out like a template so that way I can kind of follow along without having my computer open and doing that back and forth. First up, we got the working title. Rushawn's got an idea. I'm going to probably stick with that unless somebody has something that sounds better, but I don't know any real shows that have a person named Rushawn in the title, so we're going to stick with that. The tagline, I have no idea. I think whatever I try and say is going to sound cheesy, so I'm just going to pass by that. But the log line, and let's see what a log line is. Log line is a single punchy sentence explaining the concept. And I want to also mention this. I am so abysmal at writing, so I'm not going to do this any justice. So it is what it is. It'll have to just be good as is. So a single punchy sentence explaining the concept. Multimedia artist shows the step-by-step process of bringing ambitious ideas to reality. And this is going to probably sound pretty close to what the first and the second episodes in the series have been, because from what I can tell, like a show Bible, at least how it is right now, is pretty close to what the pitch was like. So it's probably going to be some reoccurring components in this. Step-by-step process. The series overview in the premise, which I feel like would have some repeat of what the log line was. So I'm going to start it out with that. So multimedia artist Rushawn Stanley explores multimedia artist Rushawn Stanley explores ambitious, unusual, and sometimes personal ideas and how to make them a reality. I think that sounds decent for now. Whether it be Rushawn and future guests will learn side by side all of knowledge and hopefully see that the act of creating is the fun part, not the actual thing that you get out of it. The thing that you get out of it is the cherry on the sundae. The actual doing the thing is where the fun lies. It's like doing a Sudoku or a crossword puzzle. You're not stoked that it's done. Like you are, but you're not focused on the fact that you completed the puzzle. It's the fun of the puzzle is doing it. So this is probably word soup, but here's what I got for the premise. Multimedia artist Rushawn Stanley explores ambitious, unusual, and sometimes personal ideas and how to make them a reality. Whether it's creating a screenplay that becomes a theater performance in a grocery store, a garden for city wildlife to enjoy, or a treehouse nightclub, every episode will follow the journey from inspiration to execution. And rather than skipping ahead to the juicy bits, the series embraces all the down and dirty work that goes into creating. Rushawn and the future guest will learn side by side all of the skills and knowledge needed to complete the project. Viewers will gain practical knowledge and hopefully find that the work that goes into creating is where the fun lies, not the creation itself. I think that's worth working with right there. All right, series mission. I guess I should add in here that this is like documentary style in the premise. Because I didn't really know how to categorize what I'm trying to do when it comes to like what this is close to. I guess this would be like closest to like, Nathan For You / The Rehearsal, in that kind of world, which I guess is like documentary style. I don't know. I'll skip that. All right, what's the series mission? The series mission is essentially to show folks that it's not magic when people make things. There's a lot of hard work and there's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of problem solving that goes into making anything. And anything that's cool, or honestly, anything at all. Like if you actually, I'm going to go on a side note and go on a tangent for a second here. If you look at anything, anywhere, I mean, literally anything. The toilet that you're taking a shit on right now, the car that you're maybe driving while you're on your way to work, like literally the framework of the government, all of that was created because people wanted to make something. And it takes like a lot of hard work to make anything. It all stems from someone having an idea and actually completing it. But we think that it's magic because we find, from my experience, people find that things feel so overwhelming that they couldn't possibly go for it or create whatever. And I just think that's so not true. It's just a matter of like breaking it down into small pieces and then working with what you got, working with what is in your toolkit and your toolbox, and working with how best you learn, like understanding how best you learn. So that's the tangent. But I guess the series mission, this series exists I think that's like the key thing, like just being able to fail, like being okay with not being good. And like that's why it's so important to find the process fun and enjoyable, is that means that you're okay with not being good. And if you're okay with not being good, that means that you can keep doing something without having that nagging feeling in the back of your head of comparing yourself to other people. Like if you love it, then it doesn't matter. So I think like that's like the most important part, and like just keep doing it. Like be consistent, even if you don't do the same thing. Even if you shift up what you're doing, you're like I'm a rapper one day, and then I'm an architect another day, and then the following day, like that's fine. But all of those things have a Venn diagram where pieces of information that you learned in one thing you wouldn't even realize are transferable to another thing that you're trying out. And all of those things might accumulate into creating something that's totally new that utilizes the information of all the other random things that you got into. We're not insects. We don't need to specialize. We can do a bunch of things at the same time. We can jump back and forth between all types of disciplines. Just, that's still being consistent. Just do the thing. Just get moving. So, again, sorry, that's another tangent. Okay, moving on. The genre. So I'm not gonna lie, the genre, I didn't really fully know, so I had to look up similar-ish to what I'm doing here, and what kind of came out was that this is more of a creative documentary series, which I guess, but like, is Mythbusters a creative documentary series? I mean, this is no Mythbusters, but is that what that would be considered? So I don't know. So creative documentary series, educational entertainment, and human interest would be what this genre would be. Maybe it'll change once I'm not so focused on learning and I can actually just kind of take what I've got going and like mess around from there. Format. I'm shooting for 30 to 45 minute episodes, I guess to an hour. So I guess 30 minutes to an hour. If I get to a point where an hour is possible, I would love to do that. I recently looked up some episodes of Made. I don't know if anybody remembers Made. that MTV show where it was like, I'm a band geek, but I've always wanted to be a rock star. And then they interview all the people in the school, and they're like, yeah, that girl's a fucking band geek. Bah. And then they're like, well, we're going to show you. And then they hire, like, the bass player of Motley Crue to, like, try and transform, you know, the person into a rocker. But I really enjoyed that those episodes are like, I mean, there's commercials, but they're like 50 minutes long, or it's like an hour long. But I really enjoyed that as like a style. And I also really enjoyed that they document like day 1, day 2. And I'd like to get better at keeping track of this and maybe add in that sort of element. Anyway, yeah, so 30 minutes to an hour, probably an hour will be the format, but I guess 45 minutes would make more sense. The structure. So they would be episodic, standalone episodes, but I imagine even though they're standalone episodes, they'll have a thread that kind of weaves them all together just because it's going to involve people from Philly all doing stuff. So there's going to be like standalone episodes connected by reoccurring experts, increased knowledge pool. Like if I'm learning something and then I go to another project and that thing requires me to know something that I learned in a previous project, then, you know, that'll go through and it can kind of cut back. And then, you know, probably how I develop over time doing this. So I guess and personal growth. So the host. And again, this template that I got is something just from online. So I don't even know if this is like a proper template, but so the host, me, Rushawn. What do I got going on? Artist. Oh, let me backtrack too for a second for the series mission, because I feel like I was just mumbling, but I didn't state what I had written down. This series exists to make creation feel obtainable. Most people have ideas that they never seek to make real because they don't know where to start, or they're pretty sure it's reserved for experts. By showing the step-by-step process and documenting it, it aims to demonstrate that projects are built off of trial and error and consistency. And the goal is to encourage people that their ideas are possible. For the genre, creative documentary series, educational entertainment and human interest. For the format, looking at 45 minutes to an hour-long episodes, and the structure will be episodic, standalone episodes connected by reoccurring experts, increased knowledge pool, and personal growth. I'll be the host, Rushawn. I'm an artist, event producer. I'll also act as the collaborator, the researcher, and the community connector. All right. And what's my perspective on this? I'm not an expert in anything. And to be honest with you, I'm not particularly great at anything either. I'm a pretty normal dude, you know? But I am incredibly curious, and I do love learning new things. Anything is possible if you try. So this is a little cheesy, but I'm gonna go. Rushawn's not an expert in anything, or even particularly great at anything, but he is immensely curious and loves to learn. There is a deep... I should write this. Rushawn is not an expert in anything, or even particularly good at anything, but he is immensely curious and loves to learn. That deep-rooted passion fuels his views that anything is possible if you try. I'll come back to that. I'm not going to stick around on that part. What's next? The episode structure. So this one's pretty easy. There's the idea. And that's pretty much, what's the idea? How did you have it / why did you have it? And what are the obstacles? 2, the learning. So that's going to be research. That's going to be having interviews with people who are experts or incredibly knowledgeable. Existing examples. Unexpected things you find out. All right. 3, the planning. Fun. That is going to be breaking down the project into small pieces, figuring out a budget, figuring out a schedule, and then getting the resources that we need. All right, 4, the process. So that would be the actual work, the meetings, the trial and error, problem solving, etc., etc. You get the point. All right, and then making it happen. It's number 5. That's going to be like the actual production of it, the installation. All right, so then we got reflection, kind of what worked, what didn't, what changed, what surprised people, would they do anything differently? So that's just going to be, what did I learn? What did the other person learn? What did we learn together? That sort of thing. It's pretty self-explanatory. Reoccurring segments. That's going to be essentially what happens every episode that is kind of reliable in happening. So I'm assuming there's going to be some sort of obstacle that happens that when we went to start initially comes up and then changes what the initial idea was and then what it becomes. Even if that's let's do this, and then as we were talking with somebody else, they're like, oh, what if you also, and it's like, oh yeah, let's add that in there. Obviously behind the scenes process, looking at the skill that's needed to learn in a deeper way, or a system that makes something possible, and highlighting expertise. Then there'll be individual spotlight. Whoever I'm assisting with, what they're trying to make or what they're trying to do, an interview with them, going a little deeper into why do you want to do this or what compels you to want to do that, and a general understanding of what they want out of creating their idea, and also what do they already know, because the less they know about what they want to do, the better. Not only with the person who is being assisted, but also the experts, the people who are super knowledgeable, and the interviews with them, highlighting who they are and what they do. And then what lessons are learned. Can't have this without trial and error. Lessons will be learned whether we want to or not. All right. Visual style. For starters, I want it to be a little, psychedelic. I want to get to a point to be able to do funny cuts, funny things with the video itself. More at home at Adult Swim than on Discovery Channel. Kind of documentary style. I definitely want to add in time lapses. I want to add in graphics. I've been liking this yellow text that I took from the Bernie Mac show. So I kind of want to keep that where it's almost playing like a character itself with commentary on the things that are going on. Tone. Themes. There's only a couple things left. Everybody has an idea somewhere in their head that is awesome, and they just have to kind of figure out how to go about it. The other themes of it, fall in love with the process, I would say. And like I was saying earlier, if the focus is on making, then it doesn't matter what comes out. If the enjoyment is making, the desire to improve will be there, and the desire to keep going will be there.
Dude.
And again, it's the same thing I was saying earlier about the crossword puzzle. You do crossword puzzles or Sudokus or any of that type of stuff for the enjoyment of doing it, not the completion of it. Or playing a video game. You play a video game for the enjoyment of going through it, not just because you want to get to the end of it and that's it. So I guess a theme would be fall in love with the process of doing it. Or if you're not in love, find the elements of it that you love, or maybe find something different that you could just do endlessly. So fall in love with the process. I always like to think, a lot of times when people start jobs, They don't know every single thing about the job. Sometimes they start a job and don't know anything at all. And they get trained in how to do that. Like, I worked at a Starbucks years ago and I didn't know anything about how to be a barista, but I got trained in how to do it. So if you add that mentality to things that you want to do and not beat yourself up over having to learn it, and just approach it as like, if you've always wanted to play piano, but you're like, I can't get it, I'll never be able to do it, or, being like that, imagine if someone hired you for, an hourly rate to play piano, and then they were like, well, we'll train you up on playing piano. You just have to put in the extra effort in practicing, and we'll pay you to do that. You would learn piano. And it's obviously not like apples to apples, but I don't know, maybe that can help of just being like, you're able to do it just like you've had to learn how to do anything in your entire life, how to do it. So, learning through doing, and love to fail. I was a skateboarder for a long time, and I had to fall a lot before when I finally landed my first kickflip. It was like the sweetest thing ever. And then I didn't land another kickflip after that point for like 2 weeks later. But it was just, it was fun to just go for it. So it's like, you got to learn how to love to fail and be like, this is hilarious or this sucks. And then try again. I think that's it. Who is the show for? I would say it's for artists / creatives, makers / doers, maybe educators in some way. If I can get to a point of like really learning things like to where I don't sound like an ass. People who like long format, the curious. And what do we have last on this template? Sample episodes. I'm not telling you any sample episodes. So that's the rough draft for the show Bible. I'm going to type this up so that way it doesn't look like a absolute fucking psychopath is writing a manifesto. I'm going to type this up and see if I can have some people check it out and give me their thoughts and their opinions and their critiques. And maybe like someone who's good at writing can help me with some editing on this to make it not sound like I'm Neanderthal. I think that is it. What are we going to do next? Next up, typing this up like I already said. Then I still need to interview a videographer. And I still need to interview an audio engineer. Got to figure out graphic design at some point. I've been pushing that off. And after that, I did look up some stuff. Oh, yeah, I'm always looking up stuff. But while looking into the show Bible, I found out a step-by-step structure I can follow to really get the ball moving here, because so far it's just been a bunch of me talking to the camera, and maybe whoever's been following this is like, well, where the fuck are we going at this point? But I now have a structure. I'll dive into all that stuff a little bit more on the next episode, but we finally have like a progress chain to follow. And I think once we revise, edit, and refine what we've got so far, we can start finally heading down this road. In the meantime, I'm going to keep working on episode 1. I don't know how to land this plane safely, so bye.